Going through a major injury is already hard enough, which is why you need someone in your corner looking out for you, which is exactly what the folks at Stewart Law Offices do. And we've got Brent and Elizabeth here with us today to tell us a little bit about what the steps are and the process is of hiring a personal injury lawyer. Thanks for joining us today, guys.
Thank you.
Of course. So what is the first step? How do we get into this?
Well, it's good that you have Elizabeth and I here because I'm old, she's young, and I think we both have a little different theory on how it works. When I first started out, there was no MapQuest or anything, so we would go out to the person's house, or they would come into us, we'd sit down face to face, get all the information, and so I'm still of the old school, I want to meet you, I want to see you, that works. However, a lot of people now, and particularly since COVID, have a different theory of how they want to do it, and I'll let Elizabeth say a little bit more about how that works.
Sure. A lot of times people will call in if you're from Raleigh or, a few hours away. I can get all your info over the phone and, get pretty much what we need and then send you all of our stuff electronically. So sometimes it's easier to do it that way. It just depends on what the person's preference is.
She can do it electronically. I am still not able to do that. That is my goal for 2025. To figure out how to send a DocuSign.
If you feel more comfortable coming in, doing it face-to-face, or if you feel like, this is more convenient for me to do it online, it's great. You have the ability to do either. Now, what do people need to come prepared with?
I like to have a list of medical bills so that they don't forget places they've been. If you have a accident report, that's great to have. So any documentation you have is better to give us rather than not give us. But stuff that you don't have, we can get too. So our job is to get your medical records. You'll sign a medical release. We'll send that out and get your medical bills and records in. So bring in everything you have. If you don't know if it's important, bring it, because it's better to have it up front than have to run back and get it later.
If there are prior health issues, how do we go about addressing that?
So that's why it's important to get your medical records. So if you have prior stuff going on, don't just assume that you don't have a claim. You may have had a back surgery 5 years ago, but if your accident aggravated you, to the point where things have worsened and you're not at the baseline that you were at, then that's something that we need to look at. Get those medical records. We may need to talk to the doctors that you saw then, that you're seeing now, to get an opinion. Okay, yes, this was going on, but did the accident re-aggravate something from the past? So it's just important to be upfront about that, so that if there's something that was going on previously, I can get the records, we can see what's going on, and talk to the doctors if we need to.
When fault comes into play, how do you navigate that situation? What goes on with that?
Well, in South Carolina, fault's a little different than North Carolina. In South Carolina, if you get into a wreck and you are 10% at fault, then in the end, they will reduce your damages by that 10%. So being a little at fault in South Carolina, you still have a case. However, in North Carolina...
Yeah, in North Carolina, if you're 1% at fault, then you're barred from bringing a claim. So it's much more difficult, especially if it's a car wreck. It's important. Bring in the accident report if you've got it when you first come in, so that we can look at it and see what was documented about fault, how they described the accident, because that's the biggest thing that I run into is if you're at fault at all, they're gonna bar the claim.
Okay, well, guys, thank you so much for sharing all this information with us. Super helpful, really good to know. And if people want to visit you, they can call that phone number, and where else can they go to visit?
They can visit us online. You can actually Google 866 Stewart. Like I said, call, Google, Siri, Alexa, and we will be there.
Fantastic. Guys, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.